Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time, and folks, let me know what you think of this new setup. I'm trying to make this an enjoyable viewing experience for our community. Welcome to my channel, the Ignition Time channel, folks. In this report, I'm going to talk to you about the Democrats who are now unhappy with President Biden. Yes, you heard that right. Many Democrats are unhappy with President Biden. So let's start with some reporting from Michael Stratford, who's an education reporter for Politico. And Michael tweets, Biden completely rejects the proposal from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren, and their proposal was to cancel $50,000 of student loan debt per borrower. $50,000, folks. President Biden simply said, I will not make that happen. He said he does not want to forgive debts from students who went to elite schools, and money would be better spent on other priorities, including early childhood education. Very interesting comments from the President of the United States. Let's take a look at these comments, and then we'll dig a little deeper into the response from Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren. Also, a pretty strong response from Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So we'll get into all that. But first, let's hear from the President of the United States talking about forgiveness of student loan debt, specifically about $50,000 in forgiveness. Let's roll the tape and watch.
Loans are crushing my family, friends, and fellow Americans.
Me too.
The American dream is to succeed, but how can we fulfill that dream when debt is many people's only option for a degree? We need student loan forgiveness beyond the potential $10,000 your administration has proposed. We need at least a $50,000 minimum. What will you do to make that happen?
I will not make that happen. It depends on whether or not you go to a private university or a public university. It depends on the idea that I say to a community, I'm going to forgive the debt, the billions of dollars of debt for people who have gone to Harvard and Yale and Penn and schools. My children, I went to a great school, I went to a state school. But is that going to be forgiven rather than use that money to provide for early education for young children who come from disadvantaged circumstances? But here's what I think. I think everyone, and I've been proposing this for 4 years, everyone should be able to go to community college for free. For free. That costs $9 billion, and we should pay for it. And the tax policies we have now, we should be able to pay for it. You spend almost that money as a break for people who own racehorses. And I think any family making under $125,000 whose kids go to a state university they get into, that should be free as well.
Very interesting stuff. The president also said, and here's another tweet from Michael on your screen, I'm prepared to write off $10,000 in debt, but not 50, because I don't think I have the authority to do it by signing an executive order. Those are comments from President Biden. Also, President Biden talks about how to better allocate this money to help minority groups. And the president also talked about 0% interest on student loans, which, by the way, has already been done since September. And he talked about expanding student loan forgiveness for public schools. Very interesting comments from the president. Let's hear what President Biden had to say about this subject.
I understand the impact of the debt, and it can be debilitating. And I think there's a whole question about what universities are doing. They don't need more skyboxes. What they need is more money invested in making. So that's why I provide, for example, $80 billion, $70 billion over 10 years for HBCUs and other minority-serving universities, because they don't have the laboratories to be able to bring in those government contracts that can train people in cybersecurity or other future endeavors that pay well. But I do think that in this moment of economic pain and strain, that we should be eliminating interest on the debts that are accumulated, number one. And number two, I'm prepared to write off the $10,000 debt, but not 50.
Mr. President, let me ask you.
Because I don't think I have the authority to do it by signing it.
Interesting comments, right? Well, the one thing that was not addressed was, how is this going to get done? As Michael points out on your screen, President Biden did not make it clear whether that write-off of $10,000 would be by executive action. It's still quite unclear exactly how it is going to be done, not how it can be done, but how it is going to be done. And the White House aides had previously said that, hey, it should be a request to Congress. In fact, this is what Jen Psaki Psaki, the White House press secretary, alluded to. And earlier in the month, they were considering executive action. So there's clearly some confusion about how to proceed with the $10,000 in student loan forgiveness while striking down $50,000 in student loan forgiveness. Also, it's very clear that there's pressure on President Biden from different factions in the Democratic Party. You'll see this headline on your screen from Politico, and the headline reads, Schumer and White House at odds over how to cancel student loan debt. In fact, Chuck Schumer is ramping up pressure on President Biden to cancel $50,000 of student loan debt per borrower with the flick of a pen through executive action. So you can start to see these policy differences on important subjects that are starting to emerge within progressive aspects of the Democratic Party and with President Biden. And speaking of progressive aspects, you'll see this response, quite a strong response from Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York. And she says, who cares what school someone went to? Entire generations of working class kids were encouraged to go into debt under the guise of elitism. This is wrong. And she also says, nowhere does it say we must trade off early childhood education, which she's not undermining, but she's saying we cannot trade it for student loan forgiveness. We can have both. In fact, she goes on to say in this other tweet that you'll see on your screen, the case against student loan forgiveness is looking shakier by the day. She says, we've got the Senate Majority Leader, meaning Chuck Schumer, and she put him in quotes, which is quite interesting. Seems like there's some friction between Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and Chuck Schumer because she put him in quotes. She said, we've got the Senate Majority Leader on board to forgive $50,000. She says Biden's holding back. What I find interesting is she doesn't say President Biden's holding back, but that's a conversation for another day. Biden's holding back, but many of the arguments against it just don't hold water on close inspection. We can and should do it. Keep pushing. Pressure on President Biden from progressives within his own party. And speaking of pressure, here's a tweet from Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts. She writes, President of the United States does have the authority to cancel student loan debt with the stroke of a pen, meaning by an executive order. She says he can and must do it. The people deserve nothing less. And news media are starting to cover this as well. Here's a headline on your screen from CNN, which reads, key Democrats unhappy with Biden's reluctance to cancel $50,000 in student loan debt. In fact, there was a joint statement released by the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who again AOC put in quotes. I find that super interesting. And Elizabeth Warren, we'll get to that in just a second. In the meantime, here's a chart on your screen that was published in a Yahoo News article, and we'll provide you with a link to all of our resources in the description section below. When you take a look at this chart, you'll see that when $10,000 in debt is cancelled, you'll see that this impacts 36% of borrowers, and 36% of borrowers will have all their debt erased. But if $50,000 in debt is cancelled, 80% of all student loan borrowers would have their entire debt completely erased. And when you look at the right side of this image, you'll see that as more and more debt is erased, as the amount goes up from $10,000 to $50,000, as you can see, there's higher cost to the US government because this money, a lot of the money is owed to the US government. And finally, in a sign that the Democrats are indeed unhappy with President Biden, you'll see this tweet on your screen from John Bresnahan from Punchbowl News, who reports that Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren have put out a joint statement. In fact, you'll see the statement on your screen right now, and the statement reads, Presidents Obama and Trump used their executive authority to cancel student loan debt. The Biden administration has said that it is reviewing options for canceling up to $50,000 in debt. By the way, this is not what President Biden said. He said he's not going to do it. And they go on to say an ocean of student loan debt is holding back 43 million borrowers and disproportionately weighing down Black and brown Americans. Canceling $50,000 in student loan debt will help close the racial wealth gap, benefit the 40% of borrowers who do not have a college degree, and help stimulate the economy. It's time to act. We will keep fighting. I believe that the Democrats see this as a now or never opportunity. They see this as an opportunity to push forth some progressive aspects, some pretty ambitious aspects of their agenda, because they know that as time goes by, things are probably going to get harder and harder because the public support for massive stimulus, for massive assistance, including forgiveness of student loan debt, whether it directly impacts you or not, it directly impacts the entire beginning of the Biden administration. It essentially creates momentum or discord for the Biden administration in the first few months of their presidency. Because keep in mind, the Biden administration wants to pass the massive, popular $1.9 trillion stimulus package, and progressive Democrats want to, get this one through as well, the $50,000 in student loan forgiveness, and then the Biden administration wants to focus on infrastructure, the Build Back Better agenda, which is going to be the focus of all our conversations towards the end of the year. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new. I really appreciate you watching. Please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. That would mean a lot to me personally. I really appreciate you watching. It helps the YouTube algorithm. If you click like and subscribe, a lot of effort goes into the production of these videos. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.